Welcome to Proto Conversations, the podcast where leadership in business and accounting isn't just discussed, it's explored. I'm your host, Zane Stevens, and thank you for joining me as we delve into the minds of some of the most influential leaders in the industry. Our journey is one of discovery, from unraveling the unique stories that shaped our guests' careers to the invaluable advice that fueled their success. We're here to provide you with simple, actionable advice to accelerate your career and personal growth. Whether you're a budding professional or a seasoned executive, these conversations are designed to offer insight and perspective that resonates with everyone. So tune in, engage, and be inspired as we build better leaders together. Welcome to Proto Conversations. Today I'm joined by Krystalynn Schlegel, an owner and insurance agent at MG Schlegel & Associates. MG Schlegel is a boutique family-run insurance brokerage firm that specializes in life, disability, and long-term care insurance planning. For over 50 years, the firm has helped families protect and build wealth by implementing plans for the expected and the unexpected. Krystalynn is an independent advisor specializing in life, disability, and long-term care insurance during the day, but at night wears many other hats. She's a co-founder of 100 Marin Giving Circle, an award-winning group leader of the professional network Provisors, helps run a restaurant in Montana, and much, much more. Welcome, Krystalynn.
Thanks, Zane. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, where are you at the moment? Are you in Montana? Are you around the world? That's always a good place to start with, Krystalynn.
I currently am in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Okay, so totally none of the normal places.
No, well, I try and make it here at least a couple times a year. Definitely at least for a week during the winter for ski season. But I had the opportunity to come down here and work from here this week and enjoy the beautiful landscape. And it's, kind of off season right now before the craziness of summer begins. And it's beautiful because everything is in bloom. And so, yeah, going to enjoy some time in Teton National Park, as well as just walking around the area and doing some hikes.
Well, that sounds much nicer than what I'm about to walk into, some boiling hot California weather. We're going to have a nice heat snap right here, which I'm not ready for.
Yeah, I heard about that, actually.
Yeah. Should be interesting. So I started off by sort of running through the list of stuff that is easily available on what Krystalynn is busy with. Obviously, there's some interesting ones there, like a restaurant, and there's your Provisor group. But you are primarily an insurance, advisor. What does that actually mean?
Good question. What does that mean? I would classify that as someone that helps guide people through the understanding of personal risk, personal financial risk. Oftentimes, our culture is very ingrained in success and, earning money, saving money, growing money. But we often don't talk about the times where life shows up, and life shows up a lot for all of us, with health scares, health issues, premature deaths, long-term care. There's a lot of things that can really affect our financial picture from a risk perspective. So I hope people understand what that actually means to them in the event of something like that happening, a disability, for example. And once they understand the actual risk, then it's my job to help them understand how to protect themselves from those risks. So we talk about different insurance products and how those might solve those particular issues and become solutions for when, like I said, life shows up.
Seems like a very different picture from the stereotypical sleazy, slick-back insurance salesman.
Car salesman?
I mean, car salesman, insurance salesperson, they're about the same, right? It's sort of seen in the same bucket a lot of the time.
Yes, I would 100% agree. That's unfortunately stigmatism with our industry, largely, I think, because, we are commission-based. So instead of, having this kind of fee-based situation, we are paid by commissions. So we're seen as salespeople trying to sell someone whatever we possibly can in order to earn money. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of people just like that in our industry. It's not an easy industry. When we compare it to other types of insurance like auto and homeowners, those are required, right? You buy a home, certainly most of the time don't buy it in all cash. So we've got to have insurance to insure against that risk. Same thing with auto insurance. We're required by law to have auto insurance. So those are things that are necessities. What I talk about with clients is actually, it's all a choice. And of course, it's also not tangible. It's not buying a cell phone or a mattress or, something that you can touch and feel. It's completely intangible. And I try to help people understand that even though we're talking about, a death benefit, so to speak, that money does actually provide the shelter, provide the blue jeans, provide the school books, provide the sports stuff for the kids. I mean, it is a lot more than what you can imagine, but it's not, you can't touch it and feel it. And every time someone purchases a product outside of their group benefits, that is a choice. And they typically are doing it because they love someone else.
Well, that seems a very different approach from what I can sort of know that a lot of people run into, right? You sort of took out, like, this is the benefits of it. A lot of the time, it's more of a fear-mongering sale of a product. Like, if you don't buy this, people are going to end up on the street, so you better buy this today.
Right. And I mean, obviously, we've seen a rise in GoFundMes and things like that. We're actually in the lowest percentage of households owning individual life insurance we've ever seen in this country. So it is something where there's been, and that's correlated to the decline in life insurance agents as well. There's not that many of us out there that really just specialize in that. The model actually has changed over the last 30 or 40 years to be more comprehensive wealth planning. But the conversations that I have with clients are not easy to have. I mean, we are talking about the what if somebody doesn't come home tonight, and what if somebody gets cancer, and nobody really wants to think about those things. They're negative, right? We don't want to talk about that, and we don't want to, and our culture has a big issue with death as well, compared to other cultures that understand and embrace and have rituals around death and things like that. It's something that's in the United States is very kind of, well, we don't really want to talk about it. So they're difficult conversations to have. And to be honest with you, it can be very difficult. I remember one of my first interviews with a prospect, and I will never forget this. I was sitting across the dining room table from a couple, and I started to talk about, what would happen if the husband didn't come home, and the wife completely broke down in tears. And I was, 25, 26 years old. And I was so shaken up personally, because I was like, oh, I don't know how to handle this woman's emotions around this situation. But that was a very clear indicator about how difficult it is to have these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, those conversations are tough, and you add to that, in the American way, you make the policies pretty complicated and difficult as well, right? When I was in South Africa, it was like, you need life insurance. How much? You need disability.
And you
what
can just
percentage
sign
of your
up.
salary? Yeah, and it's one product for each. Super simple. I knew what I needed to get, and was just about, we'll increase your how much coverage you need on your life insurance as your life changes, but it's the same product and just the value. And your disability, it's just covering a percentage of your salary, and make sure you let us know when your salary increases, because we'll have to adjust the benefit to do that. And that was it. I came to the US and they're like, okay, let's get you some life insurance. Here are the 45 products. Which one are you interested in? And I was like,
well, leave it to the United States to make things complicated. Yeah, it is. And that is the other thing about being an expert and helping people guide them through the complexity of all of these different options, because there are different types of life insurance, and there are different types of disability insurance, and all of these have different kinds of discounts and underwriting classes, and in some places that's not the case. You sign up, you get it, and that's the way it is. So being an expert in all of these different products, let alone the application of them, is something that I've really focused on for the last 21 years.
So difficult subject, complicated products. It's all good to be an expert, but there's got to be some really good people skills in there to be able to make sure you can have the right conversations to get to the right answer.
Yeah, I would say that one of the things that I struggled with in the beginning was how serious and regimented, and I don't think professional is the right word, because I still consider myself to be professional, but I think I was very buttoned up and tight about how to approach clients. And one of the things that I learned over the years is that vulnerability, authenticity, sharing my own stories and really connecting to an individual and getting an understanding of how they feel about these things too. Because I could have the same set of clients that have the exact same set of assets, same children, number of children, all of those things, and they could have completely different mindsets around money and risk. And so it's important to understand where they're coming from, because I'm certainly not going to sell a life insurance policy to someone that doesn't believe in it, doesn't think that it's important. So understanding that information and understanding the client and going through that discovery process about who they are is really kind of the first part of it.
Yeah, getting to the bottom of what people are thinking is always a tricky one, and you clearly do a good job at it, because I know people speak very highly of Krystalynn, the insurance advisor, and I know people,
Thanks.
every person I've spoken to trusts you a lot, which means you're having those good conversations. And it's interesting how that your approach and mindset has changed over time from almost this is a clinical conversation, you need to get so-and-so, this is what it looks like, I'm going to come in, do the surgery, and we're going to move on, versus now, which I guess, for lack of a better word, it's a little bit more touchy-feely, let's understand who you are.
Yeah, 100%. It definitely, and I think that I found that shift probably a good 5 to 8 years into my career, where I decided that, I don't know exactly, I can't remember the exact time that it happened, but, we are all human. We all do things that, sometimes life insurance companies don't necessarily like. And, we're not all perfect. And so I can't, like I said, pinpoint what conversation it was, but I really did start to recognize that understanding the person and understanding who they are and what they may be also afraid to share about themselves because of whatever issues they have with shame or, what they shouldn't be doing. I just somehow changed the narrative and was able to relate to people a little bit more. And as far as the trust aspect, I really do try to help people understand that I'm not selling you anything that I wouldn't buy for myself. I own every single one of the products that I sell. I truly believe in them. I was raised in this business. So both of my parents worked at Prudential, and I literally saw things happen throughout my life with their clients where insurance made a huge difference. And so for me, it was about getting people to understand that I'm not trying to sell them something. I'm trying to help them. And although they may not want to ever believe that it's going to happen to them, it's a good possibility that something might.
Brutal and nice all at the same time.
Thanks, Zane. That's another trait that I have that sometimes, it can't please everybody, but I am pretty direct, and I've learned, how to kind of help people understand that there is no skin off my nose if you don't buy these products, right? It is not going to affect me, but it's going to affect you. And it's a choice. And it's also, like I said before, it's a choice. And it's also about understanding like the why and the how these policies work. And I really try and do a good job of helping people understand, when the premium comes due next year, why are we paying for this? Mm-hmm. So, because nobody ever wants to pay for more insurance, right? Like that's like, even I don't like paying my insurance premiums, but I also know, I've had a lot of experience recently in the past year. I have had 3 female friends my age be diagnosed with breast cancer, and it has completely changed the trajectory of their life. Mm-hmm. And so that's what this is about, is planning before these things happen versus the wait and see or the sticking my head in the sand and that's not going to happen to me kind of thing.
Yeah. Great advice. So you mentioned that you have lived in this world of insurance your whole life because your parents are in the business. Mm-hmm. You're currently part of a family-run insurance brokerage. Tell me a little bit about that. How is it working with the family?
So it's a good question. my father was actually a manager with Prudential. So he came right out of college. He was a producer, which is what we call ourselves, right? An insurance producer for a couple of years. And he was very successful right out of the gate. And Prudential quickly realized that, hey, we don't want to continue paying him a bunch of money. Let's make him a manager because he's so good at what he does. So he became a manager, and he was a regional manager, and actually had from south of San Francisco, Daly City, to all the way Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, and all of Hawaii. And that was his region when I was little and growing up. Wow. My mother was actually an insurance agent, and she remained an insurance agent for 36 years. And it was really interesting watching them together. My dad actually left being a manager and went back into personal production. Gosh, now about, I want to say like 30 some odd years. And he's celebrating, I think, like 52 years in the business. So when I came out of college, I thought that I wanted to be an attorney or a stockbroker. I was always very math oriented, very technical, thought oriented. And I realized quickly I didn't want to go to law school. And then I also kind of went to Lake Tahoe for a couple of years and decided that I was going to snowboard and wait tables and enjoy a little bit of my youth before I went back to work. And so when I did go back to kind of try and get into the financial services arena and managing money and being an analyst, and everyone I think remembers the dialing for dollars. This is early 2000s. I think that they saw that I may not be as motivated as somebody else because I took some time off, right? Okay. So I didn't really have success finding a job that way. And my father recommended that I get into the insurance industry, but also go after all of my securities licenses and see where that led. And so, but at the same time, he did not want to train me. So he sent me to a friend of his who had an agency over in Concord. It was John Hancock. And they have what's called a LIMRA test in terms of your interview. And it asks you questions on if you're married, if you have kids, and what kind of things would really motivate you to be a salesperson and be in this business. And I completely failed the test because I'm single and 25 and no kids. However, he took a shot on me, and I was with John Hancock for 4 years. And in the meantime, my dad was taking me to very high level, high producer conferences. And as I'm sitting in this room, I first of all realized that I really knew nothing about insurance. I knew nothing about the application of it. I knew nothing about the tax ramifications and the legal aspects of it in terms of the application of how these policies could play a role in estate planning and business planning and bonuses and all of these different things that were so far beyond the I have an income, I have a family, I need life insurance to replace that income if something happens to me prematurely. So I was very fascinated by that. I was fascinated by the diversity of the placement of insurance and basically how, there was so much more to it. And speaking of diversity, the other thing that I did is I looked around the room and it was all old white men. And I said to myself, there may be an opportunity here being a young female in this industry to really be focused on this. Now, at this point, during these 4 years, I did go get all my securities license. I was managing a little bit of money, little IRAs for my friends, 529 plans, things like that. But it wasn't what really interested me. So at that point that's when I really decided to get really focused with my education and go down this path with the American College and start taking advanced courses in life insurance and estate planning. And I also decided that I did not want to work for one company. I felt like I really wanted to be an advocate for the client and not for the company. And John Hancock can allow, like as a career agent with John Hancock, you could sell other products, but ideally they want you to sell their products first, right? But sometimes one carrier and one underwriting classification is not going to be the best for every person. So that's when I decided to become independent. And we had a really long talk about, am I going to go out and hang my own shingle, or am I going to help be my dad's succession plan? And so in 2007, April 1st, we chose that as a joke, April Fools. And I joined their firm and became independent. Since then, my father has never given me a stick of business. When people think of family businesses, they often think of, mom and dad helping them get started and get the ball rolling. And did my dad teach me about products? Did he teach me about applications? Absolutely. And I could have these really great conversations with him. However, from as far as helping me get business, he never did and still doesn't. So, but that was actually probably the best thing that he could have ever done for me, because I learned how to prospect on my own. I learned how to make relationships on my own time, and really learned what worked for me, as opposed to the traditional ways that he would follow up with people or that he would work with clients, because again, it's a generational thing, right? So, and prospecting is the hardest part of this business. And I think in all sales, really, finding the next person that's going to buy insurance, or finding the next person that's going to buy the car. So, and of course I use the car because, hey, we're lowly life insurance agents, right? So, but it really taught me a lot about how to get out there on my own and how to find my own centers of influence and build that trust with people. And I'm really grateful that he actually didn't hand me things, because, when he's gone, I would not be able to figure out how to get him on my own. And so over the last, since I've been with him, 17 years, we have a very different style, and, but we still assist one another with certain things. But for the most part, although we are under one household, it is, in terms of a business name, it is my business. It's my dad's business. My mom retired in 2008, so she helps us with certain administrative tasks and things like that. But it's been an interesting journey.
Interesting.
And my dad's 75 and he still hasn't retired.
Yeah, I got a client that's an attorney like that as well, 75, and just goes to the office every day, gets a little bit of book of business done. Does really well because I've been in relationships forever and ever, but it's different. I'm just hoping to still be alive at 75, so let alone working. So I mean, 17 years down the line, it's sort of still the same. You guys just operate, run down your own channels, talk to each other when you can, support each other you can, but really just two separate businesses under one little roof.
Yeah, two separate producers, really. Like I said, we've gone to conferences together for years and share that thought knowledge, like when we're in meetings, and we'll talk about things afterwards, and we'll talk about goals that we want to set and different ways to approach things. But yeah, for the most part, we are our own individual producers under one household. But what's nice is that I am the succession plan for him. So when all of his clients need somebody to talk to and he's not going to be around, I will be there. And we also have generational clients. So we've had people that he's worked with as matriarch and patriarch, and done estate planning for the second generation, and third generation are, even clients that are younger than me. And so I've been kind of the one that's communicated with them about things.
Really interesting. Seems like a natural segue to ask what your succession plan is, but we'll divert around that one for today, because I've got a lot more other questions that I need to ask you. So outside of the insurance world, you have a bunch of other hats that you wear. I know you mostly from your Provisors expertise and great award of Group Leader of the Year that you just received, and congratulations on that. And I always do enjoying your in-person meetings, which is always fun. But tell us about some of the other things that keep you busy on a day-to-day basis outside of the insurance space.
So one of the other things that I'm involved in right now is I actually, about a year ago, was asked to be a managing director with another firm that has relationships with accounting firms as well as advisory firms. And oftentimes, I think I mentioned it in the beginning, it's really hard to specialize in all of the things. And so me being an expert in insurance and also understanding how to talk to clients about insurance and uncovering kind of the sticky issues and the uncomfortableness around risk planning. Longroad is basically a point of sale, help the advisors understand where insurance might play a role. And then from there, we are working with the clients directly to help them understand how insurance can be a solution for their overall financial plan. So that's a hat that I wear separately. And then also over the past couple of years, I have helped my boyfriend with his restaurant. So we started a steakhouse out in Montana. He's a chef, French trained chef. And I helped him kind of build the business and was front of the house for the first summer, and subsequently have really stepped out completely because it's really difficult to run a full-time insurance program and insurance business and also be moonlighting at night as a front of the house manager, payroll person, scheduling, all of the things. So that actually is being taken completely off my desk this summer. So I'm very happy about that, actually, because it's been a lot. And the hospitality business, the restaurant business in general, if you talk to any other restaurant owner, it is a crazy business, and it is very stressful. And to add that on top of the other things that I have going on was just it was a big undertaking and very stressful. Let's put it that way.
But I'm sure a fun experience at times.
Yes, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the business. I learned that I am fully capable of opening a restaurant, running a restaurant. From, the last time I waited tables before this restaurant endeavor was 20 years prior. And so it was interesting seeing the other side of the business, as opposed to just being a server or a hostess or whatever. And it's funny, every time that I did have those jobs, that when I was in my 20s, people thought that I was either the owner or the manager. And I don't know if that's because of the way I held myself, or the way that I took care of things, or the way that I worked, because anything that I do, I'm very passionate about. And so it was just interesting, and it's been an adventure for sure. So now I know if I ever want to retire and have a restaurant, then I can do that. And then lastly, and by all means, not least, Provisors has been a big part of my life. I really am a social person. I love getting to know people. I love spending time with people. I'm sure you've heard of the love language of quality time, and I am a quality time person. I definitely like being around people. I like being around people that are different than I am, that have different jobs, that have, different lives, and being able to connect with them and just have intelligent conversations about things and growth-minded individuals. It's something that's very important to me. And Provisors really opened up my world, really. I mean, I joined Provisors in San Francisco in September of 2015. And by fall of 2017, I was opening the first group in the North Bay for Provisors. And it's crazy that it's already been 7 years. But it's been such a great experience, and I love leading the people that are in my group, that are also extremely successful and very dynamic and intelligent. And it's really, people say that I do such a great job. It's not a difficult job when you've got great people. Let's put it that way.
Yep, a good, lively, energetic group that wants to be involved and want to give their best does make it a lot easier. But they need a strong leader to pull them forward. And I think I speak for the whole group and everybody who's guested the group that is the truth. And you do a great job at it. And it's always a pleasure to be able to guest at it. Mostly because I've also got a lot of people to thank. So it's always nice to come through and say thank you to those people at the same time. So you have a lot going on. What does your normal day-to-day look like, if there is such a thing as a normal day?
Well, I wish I could say that I was one of those extremely regimented people that got up at 5 a.m. and worked out and went for their 5-mile run. And I actually used to do a lot of that. I think post-pandemic, it's been, very much a shift from leaving the house at 8 a.m. and not coming back until 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And it's just different. And so my day is different all the time. And I would say that was also true pre-pandemic. It just looked different because I was outside of the house, right? But some days it is stacked back to back with talking to prospects about insurance. Some days it is working on my business. I don't have any staff. It's something that I've struggled with, to be honest with you. I have a full team behind me as far as managing my cases and working with the carriers directly and underwriting. And But as far as like actually having someone to take some of the administrative things off my desk, I don't have that. So sometimes it's working on my business and just getting things organized and putting presentations together for the next day when I'm meeting with prospective clients, thinking through conversations and being prepared. I actually really enjoy speaking, so I do try and get speaking engagements, and I enjoy doing those. And then sometimes it's just about connecting with centers of influence, right? So just reaching out and following up. And, we used to do it in coffee and lunches and cocktails, and now we do it in Zoom meetings or just a phone call. And my day is always kind of all over the place. So, it's something that I enjoy. I enjoy variability. I'm not, like I said, a regimented person. But it kind of gives me energy to be variable, so to speak.
I guess it helps with that sort of traveling lifestyle that you have as well, where you're in different locations at different times, depending on what needs to be done and where you are in the month.
Yeah. And that is actually one of my goals as well, is to just really try and become as virtual as possible so I can work from anywhere. Can't work from anywhere internationally, unfortunately, but I can work, I have a travel trailer, and I've been known to be out in a field where I've had enough cell service to create a hotspot and run a Zoom meeting. So from a camping table. And it's great. It's great to be able to still be productive, but also be in a new environment. And yeah, I do love to travel.
Well, it's interesting as you bring that up, because, there's a lot of talk again, sort of in the current world, that, virtual is dying, right? And this ability for people to work anywhere was just a phase as we went through the pandemic. I'm totally don't believe in that, right? I sort of worked in a virtual world. Sure, I'm sitting in my office right now, but it's mostly because I need a mailing address for my business more than anything else. And, my wife wants me out the house so she can not have to be quiet the whole day while I'm on phone calls. But you prove that you can be on the move. You can be working remotely. You can get things done. You can be very productive and very successful. So do you have any tips, hints, ideas for people who sort of feel like that's not the right way, and a way that you make it work in your life?
I think it's different. Obviously, Zane, you've got a staff that's all remote. And so obviously it can be done with staff too. I'm obviously, like I said, I'm single individual that's, working from different places. I think that for me, I've added more tools, the more equipment that I carry around with me and things like that. But for the most part, it really became so clear to me, obviously, during the pandemic. So what had happened during the pandemic is I was living in San Francisco. I actually went to Lake Tahoe to my parents' house, and still managed to people came on board with these virtual meetings. And to be honest with you, sometimes it's awkward for someone to come to someone's house and talk to them about insurance. And now that's kind of, that barrier's gone, kind of, because people, I'm not coming to their house, so they don't have to worry about cleaning it up. They don't have to worry about, whatever kind of impression they're going to make on me. And so I feel like people are very open to it, especially with the conversations that we're having. And so I fully feel that it's not dying either. I sure hope not, because that's what my plan is to become more virtual. But there's also that importance of being in front of people, the connections that we have. You know it, and most people know it. Like when we're in that room together with Provisors, the energy of people and being together is so much stronger than what we're doing over a virtual meeting. And so I think that it's important for me to make sure that I still have those things. And so when I am back in the Bay Area, I am trying to see as many people as possible and make those connections. And we may not even be talking about work, right? We're not talking about insurance. We're just connecting. And I still think that that's important. But as far as like actually having to be back in an office and expecting somebody to be there 5 days a week, 8 to 5. And of course, again, I'm an entrepreneur, so it's different for people that are like employed. But I don't know if there's any tips in there, so to speak, that I said, but I also think it's about priority. right? So some people are not nomads. Some people are not interested in doing what I do. And I think some people, travel is very stressful for them. For me, I get energy from it. So if I can be energized and excited about, the things that I've got meetings. I mean, I'm here in Jackson Hole, but I am taking a couple of days for myself while I'm here. But while I'm here for a few days, I'm stacking meetings and I'm going to sit in this, room and get some things done. And I don't feel underproductive just because I'm taking a couple of days off. Like I said, that kind of stuff gives me energy to go back to work, to have a fully stacked day and not get burned out, basically.
Yeah, so two pieces of takeaway for me there. One, balance looks different for every single person. Figure out what that looks like for you and build your life around it and look for the opportunities to be able to do that. The
100%.
second part, which might be the most important part of that, is developing relationships with people is really important. And trying to find ways to be able to do that is really up to you. And it can be in person and you can make the most of it. But, I've got a very good friend that I probably haven't seen in person for 7 years, and we talk on text pretty much every week. And probably one of my strongest relationships I have, even though we probably will never even be in the same room for who knows how long. He's in the UK, I'm in California. We're, a lot of miles away. So just finding those connections, doing it the best you can. If that means in person, great. If that means over Zoom, great. You can make it happen. And if you're making it happen with such a difficult product like death, then, I'm sure other people can make it happen with even less depressing topics. So I'm sure it can be done.
And it's also interesting because, as you mentioned that, like I know people here in Jackson Hole, so I also try and make an effort to see them when I'm here. I'll reach out and say, "Hey, I'm here." And again, any connection, and this is kind of a cheesy thing to say about my industry, and I actually really don't like this particular thing, but it is actually true, is that everyone needs my services. Everyone's going to die.
Yep.
Everyone potentially could have a disability. It's a very high probability, higher probability than premature death. And also, most all of us are going to have some form of long-term care event happen to someone we know. And having those conversations with people in terms of how to understand the emotional and the physical and the financial aspects around that and how stressful it is, and just being empathetic with people about going through those things, that's anyone. That's anyone. So, like I said, I have contacts all over the country. I have contacts all over the world, really. But if I'm somewhere that I know someone, I usually always try and reach out and say, "Hey, let's grab coffee," or whatever. And that's not self-serving for me to try and sell them insurance. It's just a connection. And like I said before, I really enjoy quality time with people. I think it's interesting to have other people's perspectives or to understand what other people are going through. It only actually adds to what I would say my quiver in terms of stories about what people have gone through.
Yeah.
Because when you make solid and real connections with people and you have real conversations about life and not surface relationships, you really can, that it's beneficial to my business and having conversations with people, because again, a lot of the times I am just telling stories about what's happened to people and what I've seen and what I've heard.
Really great. So you've spoken about your journey, told us a little bit about your success, but there has to have been some challenges along the way. What do you think has been the biggest challenge in your career to date, and how did you get through that?
I think the biggest challenge for myself personally was getting out of my own way.
Mm-hmm.
I think, all of us have different upbringings, different experiences in our lives, different things that shape who we are and how we behave, and also what thoughts go through our mind. And I think that it was a lot of times I was kind of selling myself short. And over time, with encouragement from other people and actually listening to them say that I'm doing a good job, or that I really do explain things well, or I'm very clear and I'm very helpful and I've provided them with peace of mind, those have given me more confidence to continue doing what I'm doing, which I do really love. But I do think that getting out of my own head and not being so over analytical about how I handle things. And of course, like I said, none of us are perfect. People make mistakes, and not feeling that I was, doing something wrong or being too aggressive, or getting over that has helped me, basically. And you can't please everyone, so people are going to take a different route if they don't like working with someone that is direct and that is to the point and to the this is the deal. If they don't want to hear that, then they're not going to work with me, which is fine. Again, there's other people out there that have a different approach, or those individuals may just not be willing to accept the information either. But I think that definitely my biggest challenge has been just getting out of my own way and doing what I feel is right.
Yeah, you mentioned there, like, you can't please everyone. For me, that was one of my biggest turning points in my career, was realizing you can't please everyone and just sort of be myself. Made a big difference. But the other point there that is always important for people to remember, that nobody is judging you as much as you're judging yourself.
Absolutely.
Once you realize that, you get a lot of freedom in what you're doing. And you realize as long as people are responding in a positive way, then you're just fine. You're just fine.
Right.
And
once you get that freedom, we always often forget that everybody's more worried about themselves than they are about anybody else.
Yeah. Most of us don't really care what other people are up to, as long as it doesn't affect their life in a negative way. So,
right.
Just keep doing what you're doing as long as people are responding in a positive way.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the near or to medium term future. What are the big plans for Krystalynn for the short term, other than trying to create a nomad life?
So yeah, it's the opposite of a nomad life, actually. So I am a COVID transplant to Montana. I moved there for personal reasons. I had a trauma about 5 years ago this summer, actually, and I really wanted to be more outside in nature and more connected to nature. And I felt like it was kind of, therapy, really, to be just out in a way. And again, it's kind of opposite of what I've been talking about, right? Connections to people, but at the same time, like, the connection to nature is also really important to me. So I moved to Montana 3 years ago. I have done zero business development in Montana. And I finally decided that if Montana is going to be a place where I'm going to be spending a lot of time, and I'm not sure how long I will live there, one thing about being single and childless is I can go wherever I want. So there's that. But I am actually now going to be really focusing this summer on creating a new community of professionals for myself in Bozeman. Montana is an interesting state now, where we've had this huge, massive influx of COVID people moving, and there's a huge need for professional services. And Montana's a little behind with estate planning. And, it's a state that has had a huge increase in the value of real estate, which obviously affects estate planning and those values. And not only that, but there are tons of farmers and ranchers. And this was an issue up in Northern California as well, with ag business, of having just enormous amounts of wealth, but not having a lot of liquidity, and potentially losing wineries, losing real estate, losing farming land, because they didn't understand or were not told about what would happen when they die, and estate taxes. And so one of my goals this summer is to really start making those connections. And my goal is to actually have and create the Southwest Estate Planning Council in Bozeman, and with a start date of hopefully January of 2025. So that's kind of my short-term goal with business right now. Outside, I'm always doing other projects. I like to do things that kind of stimulate my mind outside of just my business. And then personally, as I mentioned before, I've had, a lot of health issues around me lately. And I really feel like, I wore the 4 hats: the managing director of the restaurant Provisors, my business, and I wasn't really taking care of myself. It is actually something that I'm really trying to focus on, not being of service to everyone and ignoring myself.
Mm-hmm.
And with the health scares around me and the health issues around me, I just really feel like this is the year that I want to take back some self-care, prioritizing myself, because not only that, I think that I will be a better resource. I will be a better entrepreneur. I will be more energy when I focus on the things that we all talk about: diet, sleep, exercise, all of those things. And those have kind of just been put aside. And I really feel like I need to refocus on that. I was really good at it in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
But for the last, I would say 4 to 5 years, it's just really kind of fallen off. And I know that I would feel so much better physically. And also, I got another 45 years hopefully in me. So it's time to take care of my body.
Yep. No, that's a good point. I'm always putting myself last, my own health last when it comes to things. And this year I've tried to do the same, sort of look after myself a little bit more, with the understanding that if I really want to help people, I actually need to be around to help people. So,
right.
that is really important. So that is
it's like
great.
The saying on the airplane, right? You got to put your own mask on first.
Exactly. Very important. Krystalynn, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
There's a few. I would say that my grandfather always said that, showing up is half the battle. And I think everybody's heard that one, but it really is true. And I mean, take consideration a networking, a social event or something for your business. And, you're going to go, and maybe you don't want to go because it's 5:30 at night and you're really tired, but just showing up, you have no idea what kind of an impact that may have. And I think that goes for everything. Just showing up is half the battle, and you never know what kind of experiences or opportunities that's going to lead to. I really took that one to heart. The other one is that in my business, again, back to commission based, I think you'll find that as people get more advanced in this industry and more professional and more higher level and working with very large estates and, highly technical things, which I do and I love, and they are certainly more complex than talking to someone about buying life insurance outside of their employee benefits. However, that individual that is, let's call him the little guy, is almost more important, if not more important, than me selling a $5 million policy to somebody that's got a huge net worth, that we're using that life insurance policy for estate tax. A $500,000 term policy to a family that has an unexpected premature death of a breadwinner could be more important and more game-changing for their life than the other previous example. And so getting the same amount of service, the same amount of guidance, the same amount of attention to any client, no matter what the size, is I need to do. And to be honest with you, it's incredible what that action has led to in other opportunities. And so, I mean, I'm sure we've all heard this. If anybody's been in BNI, is givers gain. And it is 100% a true mentality of the more that you can give to other people, regardless of what they may give to you, you just never know what you're going to get back in return.
Yeah, that is great. And, for people who are trying to grow a quality business, somebody that really wants to be known for exceptional service, you will get that reputation if you're giving that good quality advice, customer level, like is top notch to the small guys, because they're more likely to tell you about their friends than the ones who, the big clients, because they're there. Just, we're paying for the service, you better just give it to me. Love the quality of service, great, that's going to keep me around. But the small guys are going to talk about it, appreciate it, and share that with their friends and family. Krystalynn, you are an exceptional leader, without a doubt. And all of us should be aiming to be in the same level as you when it comes to leadership. So can you share with me some advice on how to be a better leader so that I could reach your levels of leadership?
I think for me, like I said before, I I usually am very intentional about the things that I do, and I'm very passionate about the things that I do. So if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the best level that I can. And when I'm in a leadership role, I also try and express to people that, and this is one of the challenges that I have as a leader, is delegation. I'm a little bit of a control freak. So delegating is absolutely necessary, but I also believe that you have to, in order to delegate, you have to earn the respect of the people that you're going to delegate to. And in order to do that, you have to be willing to get your hands dirty and do the work yourself. And I also think that leading from your own core values, and again, it goes back to, you're never going to satisfy everyone. Some people aren't going to like the way you do things, but if you are leading from a place of your own core values, and if your own core values are to help other people and help other people succeed, they're going to see that, and you're going to earn their respect, and they're going to want to help you continue to lead and be the person that, as you mentioned, kind of holds things together, right? So I don't think my leadership style is for everyone, especially in the restaurant business. Just dealing with a different kind of animal in terms of mentality there, but I get things done and I execute. And it's actually funny because my Myers-Briggs style is the executive. And it literally says that, you can get things done, but sometimes you may offend people in the process because you are so direct, and you just kind of move forward past the people that aren't willing to do the work or are not willing to participate, basically. And sometimes that offends people. But I would say that, like I said, leading from your core values, being able to do the work yourself that you're asking somebody else to do, and making sure that you're doing it for everybody. You're doing it for the greater good of whatever organization you're leading. It's not about you.
Yep, service leader that shows by leading by example. It's a great place to start. Krystalynn, you've shared a lot of amazing information today. I'd love to learn a little bit more of you as a person. I know you've given us a little bit of insight into who you are on a day-to-day basis outside of work. But are you able to share something with us, a passion, a love in the personal life that you would give us an insight into who you are?
Sure. I mean, obviously, we've talked about my passion for travel. My parents gave me that bug when I was little. Started out with, we didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up, and we camped. We drove and car camped and all over the West Coast. And it was eye-opening to me just to see the United States by vehicle. And I don't think a lot of people have done that. But on top of that, then they started taking me to, I went to China when I was 12 years old, China, Japan, Thailand. And since then, I've hit about 40 countries, and I have been to a lot of third world countries. And when you travel, there's a quote, and I can't remember the name of the individual with the quote. It's basically, if you don't travel, the world is a book, and if you don't travel, you read only a page. And I think it's a great quote because it really says how vast the world is. And also, when you travel, it just opens up your eyes to how lucky we are as Americans to have things that some people don't have, as simple as clean water and living environments and healthcare, and how happy they are with what they have. And so sometimes when I've gotten back from vacations, and I went to India for 6 weeks, I went to Africa for 7, I just recognize, like I said, how incredibly grateful I am for the opportunities that we have, the ability to have a dream and to build it. And without even having to think about all of those other things that these people in other countries don't even have. And so traveling to me is really important just because it takes us out of our own environment. It sometimes makes us very uncomfortable. You can meet incredible people that you would have never met and hear their philosophies on life with what little they have. And it just is, sometimes it's incredibly moving.
Yeah, thanks. That quote, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page," is Saint Augustine.
That's what I thought it was.
It is very true. You learn a lot from travel. And I'm trying to show my kids, and we're doing it by traveling as many states as we can in the U.S. Maybe not camping, because I'm against sharing toilets, but that's just me. Yeah, that's great insight.
Even in the United States too, Zane. I mean, it's funny. Like, just I was talking to my friend the other day about getting meat, and he's like, "Well, I just go to the butcher," and I'm like, "Well, I live in a town of 1,000 people, and it's not just so easy just to go to the butcher." I've been, sourcing food from, certain places that are in bulk for me to be able to have it on hand. But yeah, just traveling the United States too can really be eye-opening in how different places are.
Yeah, very, especially from a person who didn't grow up here and then landed in California. The rest of the US is very, very different.
Very, very different.
Yeah. Krystalynn, this has been great. You're at Protea Conversations. We'd like to end with some rapid fire. So I have 5 questions for you. If you're ready, we can get going.
Okay, go for it.
And this is a perfect one for you. What is your dream vacation?
Honestly, I would love to just go to Italy for like 6 months and just have an Airbnb home base, be able to hop on the train any day, go to somewhere and just enjoy the afternoon. And I don't know, Italy is, I can't go wrong with food and wine and art and history. And it's just, it's an amazing country. And it kind of sounds a little cliche, but I would definitely go there for like 6 months.
Great choice. Do you prefer audiobook or paper books?
That's tough. Because I drive so much, I actually have gotten much more into the audiobooks, but I do really actually like reading. I just feel like I absorb it more. I'm not looking and I'm not absorbing the highway and paying attention to driving and listening to something at the same time. So reading a book is more influential, I would say, for me.
Okay. If you only had 20 minutes to exercise, what exercise would you do?
Weight training.
What is your favorite piece of technology that you currently use to make your life easier?
Well, I mean, do I dare say my phone?
If that works for you.
That is by far. I mean, I can, again, go. I mean, I've gotten so many apps now on my phone, tiny scanners and, DocuSign and all sorts of things where I'm able to really be efficient just with my phone. So it's pretty wild. But yeah, I would say my phone.
Great. What was your favorite meal growing up?
Favorite meal? Oh, I don't know. I don't think it's ever really changed. I'm a pizza person for life. I just love pizza.
Favorite type
I feel
of
like
pizza?
it's got all the food groups.
Yeah.
No, I actually don't really have a favorite. I mean, if I were calling round table, I guess I would get pepperoni, black olive, and mushroom. But I just love all kinds of pizza.
Yeah, that is a good option. I prefer sausage to pepperoni, but that's a great option.
Okay.
And with that, we end another Protea Conversations. Thank you for joining us in this journey of learning and inspiration. Today, we've gained insight from our guest and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussion has given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Protea Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on my social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence and embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Protea Conversations.